assistance in understanding the Catholic Church. I'm not I'm nothing but a lay person. I did take lay ecclesiastical classes a few years ago. But anyway, my son was like, "Hey mom, why don't you teach online?" So, with that all said, again, I'm not a teacher in the Catholic Church. I am a Catholic, cradle Catholic, and I would like to help people understand, is there an Almighty? Well, if we look around, science cannot explain where we came from, and even the theories that many have come up with do not make sense. They're not logical. They do not have common sense in them. I have heard theories that we came from chemicals. I have heard that we have come from some sort of single-celled something, soup mix of some sort. Like all these chemicals got together with the dirt and put us together. Well, there are so many holes in that theory. Like, incredibly illogical. First of all, where did those chemicals come from? Because nothing begets nothing. You cannot have nothing and then, just one day there's chemicals. Because that chemical would certainly have to be so much greater than what it is. Because the chemicals would have to have very high intelligence to create a creature that has intelligence. So, that doesn't make sense. Not even in the wildest imagination. It just doesn't make sense. And another thing is, okay, if we came from dirt and we were just evolving from this dirt and it took millions of years, does anybody sit here and ponder, if you leave flesh out, it's not animated, with a soul, mind you. If you have flesh out in the woods, decaying, it smells. And what does the sun do to that? It just beats down on that flesh. So how is flesh going to create itself with the sun beating down on it? It's never going to happen. It cannot happen. If you are true to science, you must be true to the decay process to understand. You cannot build from that. And if these chemicals are so smart, and this dirt is so creative, and they get together, why did they stop getting together? These are things that science cannot answer. These are things that people who say these things they do not make sense. They can come up with fancy words. Yeah, anybody can. Oh yeah, well, let's make it sound really scientific. But if you look at it, it doesn't make sense. Okay, what animates us? And beyond that, what is the purpose? What is the point of these chemicals creating beings, and not just a human, and not just one human, which makes it even more preposterous, is these chemicals got together somehow, that don't communicate, by the way. They got together somehow, and they created men and women to procreate. And they did such a bang-up job. It worked. There was no testing or theories. It worked. Woohoo! So let's not just create a man, let's create a woman too. And how about we do a whole bunch of species? Oh, they're all different. We're giving intellectual capacity to single-celled objects that do not have intelligence, that created us, and yet they still didn't evolve because they're still existing. They're still existing without a brain. Really. If anybody were to study the processes in depth in science, like the eye, I've heard, yeah, it's so intricate. How do we have vision just from the existence of the eye? No? How's that work? We got an eye. So what? So what? How did its existence? It's there. How did that actually come to work? You know, it's very complex. The heart, it's there. You know, the lungs, it's there. But how does it work? What brings the dynamics of the movement? What causes animation? It's not simply being. It's not, well, okay. There it is. There it is. Well, yeah, and there is, you know, a piece of wood laying on the ground. There's a lot of things that even humans created. And what's even more fascinating is, do these same people come up with, okay, we were created by an unintelligent being, okay, but yet we can't create. We're more intelligent than these single-celled whatevers they claim created us. Okay? Whatever they claim created us. But yet we who have more intelligence than what created us cannot create. Wow. I mean, that should be really insulting even to their own intellect to realize we do not have the capacity to animate a living creature on our own. We cannot pick up dirt with no DNA, no splicing, slicing, cloning. We cannot pick up dirt and animate it. And yet, we're supposed to believe that some kind of chemical soup mix that still exists and has no brains created us. Whew. Wow. And yet, they created something more intelligent than themselves, and yet we can't create anything animated with eyes, a brain, emotions, breathing, heartbeat. You know, emotions are another thing that is observable but unexplainable. Or do you have emotions? Because, say we create, I don't know, these electronic dolls now or whatever they are. They don't have emotions. They're not true emotions. They don't have heartbeats. They have parts that spring out and pop, batteries or whatever they need. It's not the same as a human. They expire in a different way. we expire, our soul leaves us. And science, well, they're a study. Okay, they like to study. That's all they can ever be is study. They can study. They do not have answers. They will never have answers. They can tell you that someone has conceived, how the conception occurs, and that the same human DNA, although different, is being created in a human. Okay? But those humans already existed. And they existed from, and we have to face it. We had parents. Who were our parents? People want to ridicule and scoff at the scriptures, but it shows we had parents. And archaeology has proven so much of the biblical occurrences. But if we came from a soup mix, who were our original parents? What is the point of creating this? I mean, we're going to end, right? Or did they not see that coming? They're so intelligent. So what is the origin of humanity and why? Why? It didn't occur in a soup mix. There is a point to it. And say that soup mix was just so successful and these people just popped up out of the ground. It took all these years and the sun didn't destroy the flesh. Nothing destroyed that flesh. It just took millions of years to build up. Even though it takes, months to destroy it? And come on, logic, please. No? Where's the logic? People just aren't accounting for that. And look at all the creatures. Look at how everything works off one another. Everything has order. You know? And science even studies, hey, look how wonderful the earth can self-clean itself. Okay? We got this vast ocean, and the waves of the ocean clean our air. And how the smallest insects provide a meal to the next guy. You know, it's like everything has order. And if we didn't have a creator that had came from a morality structure, how chaotic do you think it would have been? And we already see war. We already see anger and carrying on and destruction and selfish motives. What, do we think our original parents just popped up out of the earth? I am such a good person. I'm so wonderful. I'm going to help other people. So much empathy. It doesn't work like that. Emotions do not come from dirt. They come from the Creator. The scriptures say, you know, I love because you loved me first. And that's true. We can imitate our Creator. So if we came from dirt and it has no emotion whatsoever, and if it did, we're all in trouble because we're stepping over it all the time. But if we came from dirt that has no emotions, how could we have survived this long without self-destruction? Because it's illogical to believe that there is no Almighty who gave us these emotions, who gave us a morality, a compass, and a desire to do for others. Because left to our own devices, truly left to our own devices without a conscience, without empathy, without sympathy, without understanding, I'm pretty sure humanity would have never survived. Because if we didn't have emotions, why would the man and the woman even want to be close to one another? They have no emotions. They'd be like two robots. Just look at each other. What are you for? I don't know. Hey, you, Bert, I don't like you. Smack. You, platypus, you're ugly. Swat. And where did we come up with that? Where did we come up with communication? All these things that humanity today takes for granted, you never sit down and think about it, do you? You never sit down and think about it. And you should. And you should. I just want to give you something to think about. And if people want to give me backlash, that's okay. But they're not being honest with themselves. They're not sitting there thinking of these things. They're like, oh, but the science. Da da da. Okay, science is a study. Science cannot say how we actually were formed and why the decay process doesn't take millions of years as the alleged creation would have. Nah, boom. It's a lot shorter than a millions of years. Can you imagine that? And we'd have a lot of stank. So how is it that creation to start it all took so long? Because in theory, if there was no Almighty, creation wouldn't have existed. And it would be pointless to give credibility to dirt and chemicals that we're alive. Because it's pointless. We would be pointless. Do you feel pointless? You shouldn't. You have a reason. We all have a reason to be here. We all have a reason to coexist with one another. We all have emotions to coexist. We do have need for one another. Imagine loneliness. I don't see how these soup mixes were so good at, like, okay, well, we can't make just one. Not only do we have to procreate with them, yeah, but they're gonna be lonely. Oh wow, that's an emotion. How does dirt come up with that stuff? And you can sit down and you can describe every theory in the world, but what's the point of life? And what's the point of having a male and female? Where do these emotions come from? If dirt and chemicals do not have emotions and they're sterile, from that, how did they give us emotion? Well, some things to think about, and I'll be back. You have a great rest of your day.